ioTeX community. How's everyone doing on this beautiful Wednesday? We have another special installment of the ioTeX Town Hall for you guys today with some special guests this time, GeoNet and Novanet, which we'll bring onto the stream a bit later. We'll also have Aaron, our new Washington, D.C. correspondent, fresh off the Blockchain Association Policy Summit. I was there until late last night and flew back home, and we'll share some really interesting insights on what's going on in Washington, D.C. as it relates to USA crypto regulation and especially deepened regulation. But so much has happened already since our last town hall. We've seen new exchange listings. We've seen new products being launched. The focus of today's town hall is really to give a bird's eye view of what's going on in the ioTeX tech landscape. But before we get there, we got to go through some of the metrics that I was talking about. So for those that have not seen Masari's awesome Q4 report on ioTeX, really encourage everyone to check it out at masari.io/report/state of ioTeX Q3 2024. And what this report shows is massive growth across many parts of the ioTeX ecosystem, from the fees to the rewards, the usage, to the service providers engaging with ioTeX. We're seeing amazing metrics related to the ioTeX ecosystem. Daily active wallets following our ioTeX 2.0 launch are up significantly. The chart doesn't lie. You see, we saw a very high spike of heightened wallet activity during the inscription last year, but really matching this growth as ioTeX 2.0 builds steam. We're also seeing very high trading volumes on the ioTeX L1. This is our new Dune Analytics dashboard. For those that haven't seen it, definitely check it out at Dune Analytics, our ioTeX DevRel Dune Analytics page. And most importantly, we're seeing fees up on the ioTeX network, generating a lot of revenue, a lot of protocol revenue from DEX activities and also from ioID device activation. So we'll dive into a lot more about what ioID is and how these fees are being generated, but it's really great to see these metrics shooting up. Well, we've also launched a really broad set of partnerships over the past month. We've seen Avalon Labs join our Get Goated Season 2 campaign to bring their USDA stablecoin to ioTeX. We've partnered with Streamer, who are bringing their connectivity smart contracts deployed on ioTeX Layer 1. We've also partnered with Mason Bridge, and we're also partnering with Jasmy to expand ioTeX deeper into the Japan market, especially after our OKX Japan listing as well. Speaking of listings, we have a lot of new listings that are out. ioTeX has been listed on the largest exchange in the Philippines called coins.ph. We've also been listed on a Hashkey, which is one of the largest licensed exchange in Hong Kong, bringing a lot of new Asian capital across the Philippines and Hong Kong. And finally, yesterday, ioTeX was listed on Binance US, which is a great significant milestone for our exchange listing. So the ioTeX token is traded on more and more exchanges. You can kind of get a snapshot here. We're listed on Binance Spot, Coinbase Spot, Bybit Perpetuals, OKX Dex, BitGet Perpetuals, Crypto Spot, Crypto.com Spot, and many more. And it might be a little bit of an alpha tease, but there's more exchange listings coming very soon. Our Get Goated Season 2 campaign is also building steam. We've invited 20 plus deepen projects that are participating. So go check out the quests at goat.iotex.io. And as Bino is doing here, it's time to get up out your chairs and lock in. So we've seen projects like Uprock, Nubula, Qualu, Roam, Network 3, Scanit, Xpin, Wayru, Drop Wireless, EnviroBlock, Inferix, PowerPod, Public AI, WatchX, FunctionLand, ShareX, and many more that are joining Get Goated Season 2. So if you haven't checked it out already, if you're not stacking up your Bino bits, what are you waiting for? There's 100 million ioTeX tokens up for grabs for joining Get Goated Season 2, learning and engaging with amazing projects as you see on the screen here. And this is just the deepen track. There's also an amazing DeFi track where you can participate in liquidity mining on Mimo and many other protocols, as we've mentioned before. So right now, liquidity mining is open for more than just these three pairs here. but you're earning great Beano bits for participating in the DePIN track as well as our DeFi track for Get Goated Season 2. Galaxy is one of our great partners here for Get Goated Season 2, and it's great to see them shout us out here. We had a large campaign to bring more Galaxy users to Get Goated Season 2, and same thing with Gate Web3 wallet that joins OKX wallet as one of our primary exchange partners for Get Goated Season 2. So this is just your reminder to go check out Get Goated Season 2, goat.iotex.io. DePIN Scan is also making some amazing waves lately. We just recently launched our new newsletter called DePIN Wave. And if you haven't subscribed to this, definitely go to deepinscan.io and subscribe, drop your email. And we're sending weekly newsletters that share all the top alpha and all the top news across the DePIN sector, and presenting it in a very tangible, intuitive way. We wanted to demystify what's going on in DePIN for our audience. So definitely go check out the DePIN Wave newsletter, and DePIN Scan in general, making a lot of waves. We'll have Aaron on in a bit to share more about some of the products and also, again, share our experience in Washington, D.C. But let's get to the main event today. The reason why we're trying to do this town hall live stream is we've just recently launched Mainnet version 2.1. It went live December 17th, yesterday. And along with it, we've dropped a new blog that gives a bird's eye view of what's going on with IoTeX technology. So if you haven't read this blog yet, definitely check it out. It's posted on our IoTeX blog and on our Twitter. But I'm going to walk you through some of the highlights about what's going on in the IoTeX tech ecosystem. During last town hall, we really focused on the ecosystem of applications building on IoTeX, but there's so much going on underneath the hood, powering these dApps that are building on IoTeX. So let's jump right into it with our IoTeX technology update for today. Just to give you a bird's eye view of what's going on, right? There's so many different components of the IoTeX platform. You've seen a lot of different releases, from our DePIN infrastructure modules to different dApps, to different utilities, to the IoTeX Layer 1 blockchain, to a lot of services that we provide to real-world devices. But what does it all mean, right? How does this all tie together? So this bird's eye view kind of paints a little bit of the picture about what's going on. So we're really focused on bridging the physical world and the digital world. And that really starts with real-world devices, as you see here. The data, the services, and the digital resources that are produced by these user-owned devices are really the catalyst for everything that happens downstream. And one important part of what we're focused on is how do we register and connect these real-world devices to the blockchain. And a lot of that is facilitated by our DePIN infrastructure modules. These are middleware tools that we've built and integrated from some of the leading infrastructure providers in the industry to give developers what they need to make real-world devices talk to the blockchain. And how do we verify the device identities and the device utilities to really bridge the physical and the digital worlds. So as I mentioned, ioID is a really big component of this. We'll talk more about ioID very, very shortly. But ioID is the bridge between a device's off-chain identity and a device's on-chain identity. So really providing this identity framework, the best in the game, to connect device identities and kind of start as the provenance point for all the data, services, and resources that are produced by these devices. WebStream is also a really important part of this. So after we have the proof of identity, we also need to add a proof of utility. So WebStream utilizes zero-knowledge proofs in order to verify what's going on with those devices, whether or not they produce data. WebStream is going to run a zero-knowledge proof to verify that data. If they're providing a service or a resource, WebStream is going to provide a zero-knowledge proof to verify that that activity actually happened before settling those activities to the blockchain and earning tokens. There's a whole other set of DePIN infrastructure modules that we work with partners like Streamer, partners like the Graph to bring to IoTeX. And this suite of DePIN infrastructure modules is really focused on verifying the devices and the data before they are settled to the blockchain and fed to different dApps and utilities. So what are these dApps and utilities that we're talking about? So the first one that you're probably very familiar with is Deepin Scan, the verifiable explorer for the Deepin universe. So Deepin Scan is a utility that's more of like a visualization and analytics tool, but it's receiving the verified data and the verified device counts from our Deepin infrastructure modules that are anchored to the IoTeX Layer 1 blockchain. In the future, we're also working on artificial intelligence tools and data marketplaces, device marketplaces that are going to receive verifiable devices and verifiable data from those devices to fuel these kind of public utilities. And the intersection of Deepin and AI is one of the most exciting parts of what's coming in the future for crypto. And we're really focusing on preparing our platform for this Deepin and AI wave. One important thing to note is that artificial intelligence needs to have verifiable sources of information for it to work, right? We can't just dump unverified, unqualified data to train AI models, to ask AI models questions, to power the future of AI. So IoTex's focus on verifiability of devices and device data is super critical to building this bridge between Deepin and artificial intelligence. So that's what's coming next, right? We're focused a lot on the real world devices and the Deepin infrastructure modules categories. But what's coming next is really how do we get these verifiable devices and verifiable data points and build different cross Deepin use cases, especially in the Deepin and AI sector. And all of this activity, importantly, is anchored to the blockchain and orchestrated by the IoTeX blockchain in order to add that layer of trust and visibility and security for everything that's going on off chain. So that's why our IoTeX 2.0, specifically Mainnet version 2.1, is such an important upgrade. We're launching so many things on top of the blockchain recently, but having a solid foundation for everything that's happening in the IoTeX ecosystem is critical. So Mainnet version 2.1 is one of the most monumental upgrades we've had for the IoTeX blockchain. It comes with our Cancun EVM upgrade, which is the latest Solidity compiler and EVM opcodes for advanced smart contract functionality. It comes with dynamic fees, EIP 1559, which are splitting gas fees into base fees and priority fees, some of which will be burned. But this is adding a lot of dynamism to the transaction fee pricing for gas on the IoTeX network. We also have blob transactions that we've added, EIP 4844. This is one of the most popular improvement proposals in the Ethereum community that we've brought to IoTeX. And it's really going to optimize the data availability and on-chain storage for IoTeX through blob transactions and really heighten the on-chain storage and performance of the IoTeX blockchain. We have a number of other upgrades and bug fixes, including libp2p networking upgrades, EIP 2930, which is the access list transactions. And also we have deployed ioID smart contracts to the IoTeX Layer 1 to facilitate ioID registration and device management, which we'll talk about with our partners, GeoNet and Novanet, in just a bit. In addition to that, ioID is one of the biggest launches that IoTeX has been chipping away at, in addition to WebStream, which is coming very, very soon in testnet form. But ioID is on-chain device identity to fuel verifiable DPINs. ioID has had a long history. It started in 2019, actually, where we were very closely monitoring the activities of the World Wide Web Consortium, W3C, who is the nonprofit organization that has gathered a lot of mind share across the self-sovereign identity communities to put out the decentralized identity spec. In 2020, we published a white paper on decentralized identity and access management for the Internet of Things and applied tracker as a decentralized IoT and data authorization framework. We've also led the IEEE working group to standardize identity for the Internet of Things as part of the IEEE. And finally, we published a series of white papers for self-sovereign identity within the Industrial IoT Consortium. And finally, we have launched ioID GitHub and white paper in 2024. So if you haven't checked out the ioID white paper yet, please do check it out. And some of the use cases enabled by the ioID protocol are, first of all, verifiability for devices is super critical. Anyone can verify the identity of devices that contribute to DPINs are real and trustworthy. And this unlocks a whole set of use cases, including access controls. Devices can be authorized to interact with specific users, devices, DApps, contracts, and DIMs. We can have more transparent rewards distribution. We can have fractional ownership for devices, and we can unlock a lot of DeFi for DPIN use cases using ioID. ioID and WebStream adoption is already underway for DPIN verifiability. So we're going to be talking to GeoNet and NovaNet later on in our stream, who are adopting ioID and WebStream to bring verifiability to the DPIN ecosystem and also enable really cool dual mining rewards. So native IoTeX projects like Network3, Nubula, EnviroBlock, and WatchX, who everyone should go check out, have already integrated thousands of ioIDs, but we're also bringing ioID and WebStream technology to projects like GeoNet that are building on other blockchains like Polygon, Solana, Base, etc. So we're really expanding IoTex's technology reach to other blockchains and top tier DePIN projects as well. And we have a whole pipeline of ioID and WebStream integrations that are currently underway. You'll be hearing about some new Solana projects that are adopting ioID and WebStream very, very soon. And finally, just to wrap up our tech overview for today, we are saying hello to a lot of new DePIN infrastructure modules. As I mentioned, these DePIN infrastructure modules are super important in order to verify what's going on in the real world before we settle them to blockchains. So we've recently integrated the Graph for data indexing, Streamer for connectivity and data communications, and NovaNet for embedded zero-knowledge proofs. And these are all available to IoTeX builders that want to build world-class verifiable DePINs on the IoTeX network. Last thing I'll mention is, a lot of these tech upgrades and updates have a lot to do with research that we do behind the scenes. And one important research category that our head of research, Xinjin Fan, has been working on is quantum-proof cryptography. And he recently released a white paper called Enabling a Smooth Migration Towards Post-Quantum Security for Ethereum-Based Blockchains. This has gotten a lot of news coverage, including on Cointelegraph, and also won the IEEE's Best Paper Award at the upcoming International Conference on Blockchain. So if you haven't checked this out yet, do give the white paper a read, and just know IoTeX is working on a lot of things behind the scenes that are not really only impactful for the IoTeX network, but for the broader crypto community as a whole. So that's our tech update for today. I want to bring on our Washington, D.C. correspondent, Aaron Bassi, our IoTeX head of product, and just share the news that IoTeX has joined the Blockchain Association to participate in the discussion regarding crypto policy and crypto regulation in the United States, and specifically really focusing on what crypto policy looks like for DePINs, which is going to be a big unlock in the future. So the Blockchain Association, for those that don't know, there's over 100 members, including Coinbase, A16Z, Kraken, Filecoin, many hedge funds, many institutions that come together in this kind of neutral capacity to educate policy regulators, congressmen, SEC, CFTC chairs about what's going on in the crypto ecosystem for them to make sensible regulations for the future of crypto. And this really all culminated in our latest the latest policy summit in Washington, D.C. Mike from GeoNet was there. Aaron and I and Claire from the IoTeX team were there to rub shoulders with a lot of congressmen, a lot of regulators, and the amazing Blockchain Association staff to learn more about what is going on in Washington and discuss the future of crypto policy. So personally, I thought it was a really amazing summit. We got to meet a lot of congressmen. We got to meet a lot of fellow builders. And it was a really interesting, it's not your typical crypto conference where you have meme coin t-shirts and everyone was suited up. This is us at the entrance, Aaron, Claire, and I. And this is the DeepIn working group that we participated in. But there was so much more to it. Maybe, Aaron, you could share a little bit of your perspectives on what you thought of the Blockchain Association summits.
Yeah, for sure. We all got to be White House correspondents for the couple of days there, and it was a great experience. I was just telling Roland, I feel like this makes me want to go back to law school and try to become a politician or something. This is such a great experience, it really was. And yeah, rubbing shoulders with some big names, Tim Scott, Bill Haggerty, Wiley Nickel, several others, and including both in the Congress and Senate. So, this is actually, for many of them, this is the first time hearing about the DeepIn space. And it was great to be able to shed light on the sector, which is really booming. A lot of them come from the space of this v2.1 bill that they were trying to pass, and what that means was basically a big focus on stable coins. So stable coins is basically many of their first foray into the crypto space. So by bringing this DeepIn space to them and talking about these different use cases out there, and there's just so many that I was just spitting off to them, and they were just eating it up. They're all so excited about like real applications that we offer in the DeepIn space. And it's the first time hearing that, okay, I can use crypto in order to pull up this infrastructure and get centimeter accurate geolocation with GeoNet and make mass farming a reality. And that means feeding its constituents. And ultimately, their goal is to make constituents' lives better and earn the vote. And this is what the people want. So that's what we're giving to them, is DeepIn.
Yeah, absolutely. I think DeepIn was it's a subtopic as far as like the whole policy summit goes, but that just means there's a lot more to educate Washington about. I think there was a lot of talk at the policy summit about stable coins, absolutely, DeFi, and just how the thing that stood out to me is there needs to be solid definitions for the taxonomy of crypto, right? We talk a lot about the taxonomy of DeepIn, whether they're data producing DeepIns or resource producing DeepIns, service producing DeepIns, they're using virtual devices or physical devices, but that's just like a subcategory in the broader taxonomy of crypto as a whole, right? What is a stable coin? How do you define it? What is a DeFi application? How do you define it? And I think the benefit that DeFi has is there's a lot of parallels to the traditional finance industry, right? Decentralized exchange is somewhat modeled after a centralized exchange. It just has decentralized components and vibes to it. A decentralized lending platform is not too much different than the lending platforms that banks operate. All the different products that are traded, perpetual futures, spot, derivatives, all these are modeled after what the financial securities of the traditional finance world trade on a daily basis. But I think that DeepIn is so unique. You can argue that, yeah, they're also modeled somewhat after the centralized counters or centralized models to the DeepIn models, but the way that they work and the beneficiaries of DeepIn are so fundamentally different that I think it's time for Washington to really get educated about what is happening with DeepIn. So that's what this DeepIn working group that's kicking off within the Blockchain Association in January is all about. IoTeX hopes to really contribute and lead this DeepIn working group to first define a solid taxonomy for how do we define DeepIn and its many, many subcategories, and how should these categories and subcategories be treated when we think about crypto legislation, right? And a lot of this may be extended off of the Bitcoin mining model, right? Like how does Bitcoin mining get regulated? And then how does connectivity mining get regulated? How does data providing DPINs get regulated? So yeah, just a lot of questions, and hopefully we can come up with the answers in this amazing organization. Any other takeaways from you, man?
Yeah, no, 100%. I agree. And it was great just to be able to get the word of DeepIn out there. Again, people that haven't even heard of it. And this is high ranking members of Congress that haven't heard about it. So it's really good to at least shed light on it. And, going to be keeping connected with all of them and keep them in the loop of the latest things that are happening in DeepIn for sure. I actually have an article that's coming out in a couple weeks as well. It's going to be in Cointelegraph and a few other locations. And the idea there is that DeepIn is such a unique place. It's like kind of in between Web3 and Web2, and it's kind of become this bridge. And I really do see it as this bridge between Web2 and Web3. And that means it has like some components of Web2 in it. And that's not going away anytime soon. I'd love if everything was all decentralized, but realistically, it's just not going to be, and the users aren't really asking for it at this point. So what that means is, it needs some unique consideration, in my opinion, and that's kind of what I was talking about with some of the people here on Capitol Hill. Is it kind of needs some unique consideration, and I think it's going to take some real thought around what does that mean to be this bridge, and what happens if something that project is launched that has those Web2 and Web3 components, and how should it be treated? So these are some of the questions that I'm going to be raising in my article that's going to be coming out, and these are going to be the questions that we're trying to answer over the next few weeks and going into the new administration. But in general, though, unbelievable event, and there's so much optimism here on Capitol Hill around this new administration coming in, and crypto regulations, and the success of crypto is definitely going to be huge over the next 100 days and the next 4 years.
Yeah, the next 100 days, that's one lesson we learned, is going to be super critical. As the new administration comes in, a lot of the new policies are set in the first 100 days after the new administration comes in. And what I thought was really interesting is hearing from some of the SEC and CFTC chair people yesterday, who kind of mentioned that the way that crypto was treated over the past 4 years was not correct, right? There wasn't open channels. Now those channels are here. And it's really going to drive a lot of honest conversations from both sides. I think if the regulators can be honest that the way they've done things in the past 4 years wasn't correct, then maybe the crypto side has some things that they can be honest about, and we can find some real middle ground as to how to treat everything that's going to happen. So stay tuned. Hopefully IoTeX can be a bridge to you, our IoTeX community, as far as what's going on in crypto US regulation, and especially as we kick off this DeepIn working group, we'll have much more to share. But yeah, Aaron, still feeling the vibes in DC. Any last words to our community about the policy summit?
Yeah, no, just happy to be here and represent IoTeX. IoTeX to the moon, deep into the moon. Let's go.
All right, awesome, good stuff, Aaron. Thank you so much. Yeah, so this next guest that we're going to have today is one of our amazing partners at GeoNet. And one thing that maybe you've seen is we recently announced our first major collaboration with GeoNet. We've done a lot of things in the past with GeoNet regarding bridging tokens from Polygon to IoTeX, doing some liquidity mining. But this is really the first utility use case that we're really bridging our two tech stacks together. So I'd like to invite the founder, CEO of GeoNet, Mike, to the stage. How's it going, Mike?
Hey, great. Good to see you, Larry.
Good to see you. We just saw each other in DC at the BA Policy Summit. Maybe before we dive into our collaboration, what do you think of the summit?
I thought it was amazing. Similar comments to Aaron. It was great to meet so many of our representatives. Not often you get to rub shoulders and talk to congressmen and senators in the first place, and then to get to be able to talk to them about Web3 and crypto and non-financial use cases of blockchain is super exciting. I would definitely echo the comments that the atmosphere is very pumped up. There's a feeling that there's going to be the U.S. is going to be the center of crypto now, and I think it's going to make companies like us and you our lives much easier to have kind of a tailwind as opposed to a headwind. And I think that they had maybe one more thing to highlight is just the bipartisan nature of the contributors from Congress and the Senate. Both sides well represented at the conference, both sides really bullish on the adoption of Web3 and crypto, and want to see the US be proactive on regulation. I think it's very, very clear that the people have spoken, and Congress and the Senate has listened, and they know that they need to be proactive on this issue now. So I think it's really positive, really positive.
Yeah, and last year you even flew in and testified before congressmen about GeoNet's use case to bring highly accurate geopositioning to a whole variety of demand side participants. And it's definitely one of the use cases I think was cited the most was GeoNet's RTK as something that contextualizes why DPIN is impactful, and also why these kind of high tech use cases are digestible by everyday congressmen. Maybe share a little bit about that.
Yeah, well, I think absolutely. I think that maybe the most easy to relate to application for them is agriculture. Agriculture has a very important political power role in the U.S. government. Agriculture is one that has seen a lot of the cost of services and products rise tremendously. A cost of a brand new tractor now is like $400,000, $600,000, depending on the make and model. It's super expensive for farmers to get access to the technology and equipment that they need. And GeoNet's making that less expensive. And we have the USDA on our side in this crusade. USDA runs a GeoNet node and has highlighted in their research that only a third of farmers in the United States use precision agricultural practices. And precision ag practices, for those who don't know, they almost 100% use RTK. They're things like flying drones for agronomy. It's stuff like auto steer and assisted spraying systems, both drone-based as well as vehicle-based. All new tractors from John Deere, Case New Holland, AGCO. All these tractor manufacturers, they intrinsically support RTK. The machines have RTK ready capability and steering functionality in them, but you got to get a service stream, and service is still very expensive and not ubiquitously available in all ag regions in the United States. And this is what the USDA wants to bring the cost and availability, cost of that down and the availability of that up. And that's why they have chosen to install a GeoNet station and are doing a full year-long study with GeoNet on several machines in their test farm. So I think it's just a normal Web3 story. It's making technology more accessible and affordable to folks. And DeepIn is a great, DeepIn builds infrastructure, real infrastructure. And I think that really resonates well. Farming is a big part of our economy, and it's very important to the world.
Absolutely. Yeah. Just to continue this discussion on real world use cases, tell us a little bit more about the GeoPulse device. We've mentioned that ioID is going to be integrated into the GeoPulse device to bring a kind of decentralized identity, and also some of the data from the GeoPulse device is going to be processed through a zero knowledge proof on WebStream for proof of movement. But outside of kind of like the behind the scenes verification stuff, what is GeoPulse and why is it important?
So GeoPulse is a ready-to-use consumer-facing GNSS receiver that you can mount on your car. It's not unlike a Garmin or other third-party GPS receivers that people buy to put in their vehicle. What's unique about it is the accuracy and the verifiability of the data. So I think the accuracy is a key for folks in fleets, folks that drive for a living, who, I think we've all had the experience of sitting in arrivals at an airport or in a parking garage at an airport, really worried, is that Uber? Is he going to miss a turn? Is he going to really get here? And oftentimes when you're waiting, that vehicle is driving in the worst possible GPS conditions. The arrivals area, it's typically in some sort of parking garage, in some sort of place where GPS signal is very bad. So GeoPulse really provides in a wide variety of conditions a very accurate signal, typically 10 times more accurate than normal GPS, in some cases even 100 times more accurate than GPS, in some cases just having availability. Like in a parking garage, we show data on our website and in some of our tweets where we've driven around a regular phone, and you just don't have any GPS signal at all. Like you go into a parking garage and the signal just goes away. GeoPulse will provide that steady, accurate position signal. So that's element one, is providing a better, more accurate signal for your phone to use, and more accurate than what an in-dash car navigation system would have. And that enables better logistics, delivery, mobility as a service type of products. And the second piece is tying it into the ZK proofs and the IoTeX blockchain to provide that verifiability. And verifiability is important because a lot of the things that will use GeoPulse are going to be in a shared economy. And in a shared economy, there's a sense of trust that needs to be established. And traditionally, like in a Uber model, that's done through some sort of KYC process and rating systems. Well, the great thing about permissionless technology and blockchain is we can do that verification in a more intrinsic and fundamental way. And so I think that connection of the verifiability and data integrity that can be there with IoTeX, combined with the functionality, the very unique functionality provided by the GeoPulse, should be able to enable developers to build some incredible new applications on top of this combination, and to help kind of drive that forward. Right, we've announced a set of incentives for people to put the GeoPulse in, so we can get that initial baseline data, start proving out these use cases well through the community. There'll be some rewards associated with the product to drive that initial adoption, both GOD token rewards and IoTeX token rewards.
Yeah, so you'll be earning GOD tokens for activating new hexes. If you're not familiar with GeoNet's hexes, they're kind of hexagons that are layered over, kind of like a topography on top of the physical map. And basically, you'll be earning the Geode tokens for activating new hexes. I think around 20 GeoNet tokens. Is that right, Mike?
20 per hex. That's right.
20 per hex. And
up to 200.
Up to 200. Got you. And on top of that, as you provide your daily data, your daily geo coordinates from your GeoPulse device, if your vehicle is moving, and we verify that again through the zero knowledge proofs in WebStream, then you'll be earning IoTeX as well. I think up to 1,000 IoTeX per year. So this kind of dual questing, dual mining kind of use case is something that we're really excited to launch with GeoNet, and coming soon to other DePINs as well. And really just building the footprint and the awareness for why verifiability for DePIN is important. Mike, I think you said it amazingly well. There's a lot of interoperability and composability that can only be unlocked if two systems are verifiable to one another. It's not just verifiability for users, but if one system does not trust another and can't verify for themselves that what's going on in that system is trustworthy, then we're going to still be operating in silos. So really hoping that this use case can unlock some interesting cross DePIN type of use cases, but we're just getting started here. And we'll see what happens in the future.
Well, I think we're off to a good start. GeoPulse initial feedback has been super positive. We already have sold out our first batch, so it's exciting. I think we're definitely going to build lots more. We have a whole Web 2 plan around this that we're rolling out at the Consumer Electronics Show in Las Vegas coming up. So GeoPulse will be a big highlight for us at our presence at CES. We have a booth there. We're going to have a number of announcements there, and I think can start to pull in the Web 2 marketplace to use this in a variety of different fleet, vehicle, mobility as a service applications. It's really the lowest cost RTK fully integrated device that's really ever been created, and it's really the first time an individual consumer can afford something to put in their car to deliver this high accuracy end-to-end solution, and I think that's going to be a big enabler for a lot of new use cases. You can also think about like augmented reality driving, where I want to overlay the physical world on the screen. You need really good precision for that to work right. Otherwise, if you don't know where you are, you can't put the things that that are in the physical world. You can't overlay that on top of the camera viewfinder in an intelligent way.
Absolutely. This GeoPulse device is going to come with a lot of personal benefits for owners. Never get lost, never have crappy GPS signal ever again in very congested areas or, you know, underground parking lots even. But there's also so much more potential for what we plan to do with the GeoPulse device, right? It's going to be a platform for others to build applications on top of them, whether they're questing applications or everything like that. So you heard Mike, you know, the first batch is already sold out, but you're not late to the party. Go to geopulse.io to get your GeoPulse device now and then get dual mining rewards in GeoNet and IoTeX tokens and participate in this new wave of verifiable deepins. So I want to thank you, Mike, for coming on today and sharing a little bit more about GeoPulse, but we'll have much more to share very soon.
Super.
Any final words for the community?
No, just thanks for having me, Larry. Great to see you.
Awesome. Awesome. See you soon, Mike. Awesome. So that was GeoPulse. Like we said, it's really, really cool device and showing collaboration between the deepen industry. I think it's going to be a really exciting 2025 with many of these kind of partnerships coming up, both with native projects like Nubula, WatchX, EnviroBlock, Qualu, Network 3, but also deepen projects building on other blockchains, which are really excited to partner with deepins on GeoNet is on Polygon. We're having a lot of Solana projects in the pipeline, and we're looking at some base projects as well. So a lot of cool stuff happening. But in addition to just working with deepins, ioTeX is partnering with a lot of very, very deep in the trenches of the research community infrastructure builders. And I want to share one of the use cases that we've just recently unveiled with NovaNet. And NovaNet is at the cutting edge of zero knowledge proofs, especially for the embedded side, meaning they are focused on bringing zero knowledge proofs to being run locally on devices. And this is truly kind of like the holy grail for deepen verification, is to be able to not only run zero knowledge proofs and verify devices, but do that on a device for privacy preserving purposes and a whole other set of purposes. So I want to bring on their founder and CEO, Human. How's it going today?
It's going really good. Thanks so much for having me. I'm Human. I'm a co-founder of NovaNet, and it's a pleasure to be here. Congratulations on v2.1 launch.
Hey, thank you so much. Thank you so much. Yeah, the 2.1 launch is definitely has a lot of developer friendly or developer focused things underneath the hood, and maybe goes a little bit over like what the users are going to understand. But this is also kind of the same category, but it's also super important and lays the foundation for a lot of what's going on in the future of deepen. So before we get started, you know, I don't think we've had you on a live stream here before, at least on the ioTeX main channel. So maybe introduce NovaNet and explain a little bit about this proof of concept of what we did together.
Yeah, absolutely. NovaNet is a decentralized incentive network for zero knowledge proofs, and our focus is on ZKPs for the real world, not surprisingly, and not so much ZKPs for scaling networks. So we're really focused on privacy preserving verifiable compute. And a really unique and I think attractive feature of our ZK VM or virtual machine that we call the ZK engine is being memory efficient. And when you're memory efficient, you can run on edge devices, deepen devices, IoT, embedded, and all that stuff. So we see a really natural fit with the deepen landscape generally and what we're doing in terms of verifiability. And of course, your work at IoTeX and ioID and everything else. So verifying on devices, like you said, is very much a holy grail. And as everything becomes more efficient and easier to sort of run on smaller devices, whether it's AI or ZKPs, you know, we're there at the forefront on the ZKP side of things that has a natural alignment with data that needs to be verified and compute for the real world with deepen.
Yeah, absolutely. I think a lot of people think about zero knowledge proofs as the privacy preserving side of things, but could you demystify like the benefits? There's so many different benefits of zero knowledge proofs, right? We've seen a lot of layer twos adopt zero knowledge proofs for the scalability side of things, which is kind of like a benefit that's tucked underneath the how they work. But how would you explain like the benefits of ZK to a layman?
Yeah, I mean, zero knowledge proofs are a way to prove the accuracy of a statement without revealing any details about really why that statement is true or how it's true. And the classic example being you can verify your age as being an adult without saying your actual age.
Hmm.
And going a bit deeper, the properties of zero knowledge proofs are kind of two sides or three sides of the same coin. One is the verifiability aspect of things, that if the proof is generated and properly verified or just verified, that means the statement is true and there's no real way to fake it. I mean, it's true, it's probabilistic, but it's such a high probability of something being true if it's ZK proven that is it's basically a guarantee that's incredibly strong, to say the
Gotcha.
least. Yeah, so that's the verifiability aspect of proofs. And
Yeah.
then the decay component of them is that you can get that rock solid verification without revealing anything really, anything important at least. And so certainly we can all verify things if we can look at all your data. If I can see your bank account, I can verify anything I want about you. That's not a problem.
Hmm.
The question is, how can I do that while preserving privacy? And then how can we do that on edge devices? And that's where NovaNet comes in, and our perfect alignment with what you guys are doing with ioID and WebStream and everything else, where it's presumably deep-in networks and projects, they also want to preserve privacy. They don't want to necessarily know where the device is at any given time. They just want to verify that it's in the proper place and things like that.
Absolutely. Couldn't have said it better myself, even if I studied and tried. So thank you for uh, the amazing explanation. And it really just ZK is a perfect technology to combine with DeepIn, because so much of the activity of what is happening with DeepIn is happening off chain, needs to be verified before settling on chain. So it's really going to unlock this kind of next level of DeepIn, I think, where maybe there's some demand side participants that are hesitant to adopt DeepIns because they don't know if the supply is trustworthy. But with ZK, we can finally have that trust bridge between the demand side and the supply side to really take DeepIn to the next level. So talk us through a little bit about what we did in our POC. I know I had to do a lot with Raspberry Pis, even running zero knowledge proofs on such a small, compact form factor. But maybe walk us through exactly what we did during the POC.
Yeah, absolutely. And next quarter, pretty soon, January, we're going to have a nice announcement about basically a V1 of our own network and ZKVM that will really explain a lot about how we got to this stage of being able to run proofs on such small devices, and not just Raspberry Pis, but also things like ESP 32 devices, sensors, and things like that. So
Amazing.
yeah, under the hood, it's something called Nova folding approaches to ZKP, which is basically a way to just break up the steps of proving, doing it incrementally, and kind of combine them at the end for the proofs. Now, with respect to this proof of concept in particular, it starts with your SDK, right? It starts with generating on-chain in a device ID and registration for every device, bringing that off-chain, and then generating essentially a proof of the ID and signature off-chain, so it's accurate. And in this particular proof of concept, the data that we're trying to verify with the ZKP is proof of location or location data, without
Hmm.
necessarily, again, revealing where the device is located. And once all that's true, or once all that is done, then you put the proof to be verified and the other data on chain on the IoTeX chain and run the verification there. So ZKPs have two major steps: generating the proof and then verifying the proof. Sometimes you kind of
Hmm.
combine them when you're talking about it, but they are two distinct phases. And typically, even for layer twos, rollups in the Ethereum context, the proof generation happens on a layer two, but then the verification happens, the bundled transactions happen on chain. And
Right.
here, the bundled proof, let's say, will happen on IoTeX. And then there could be one more step. That's often the case when it comes to ZKPs, is the proof aggregation. And that could happen on WebStream, could happen on NovaNet. But basically, another way to just kind of make things faster, more efficient, is to take all these proofs, aggregate them, and then take the aggregated proof and verify that on chain. And if then once all that's proven, then the rewards that we just talked about, you just talked about the prior um, participant with GeoNet could happen.
Mhm.
Or or not if it's not in the right location, or maybe I think I've seen different projects where based upon where the node is participating, you get different levels of rewards because they want to increase their geographical diversity, things like that.
Yeah. Amazing, amazing. Yeah, I think proof of location is definitely, we've talked a lot of Deepin projects about what types of things that they want to verify about their network. Once we get into like very corner case kind of things, like, hey, we talked to some edge computing partners that say, hey, I want to verify that the cars that my cameras view are Teslas instead of Fords. And we're like, okay, that's a very, very specific ZK circuit that you would have to run and build, and that's maybe not as extensible to other things. So let's focus on maybe larger categories, right? Like proof of liveness is just, is this device real and on? Proof of location, whether it's like converting an IP address to some geo coordinates or just mapping out like this, the geographical diversity of a DPIN. But what other categories of ZK proofs do you think are going to be important specifically for DPIN? And what is the timeline to get into some of those kind of corner cases where it says, hey, I want to verify proof of temperature readings or proof of GPU type of capacity? What's the timeline that you see for all of that to happen?
Yeah, so the timeline in the first half of this year for sure, but I think just like you said, it's definitely accuracy of the sensor data or the other real world data that's being proven. It's accuracy just of the compute running correctly. So we're talking to AI agent projects just to to run proofs that the agent is running correctly, and that has, I think, broad applicability to DPIN as well. It's also just that the compute that's happening on the edge can be run correctly and verifiably, and doesn't have to go back to some centralized server where it may take longer or undermine privacy. So really all the different steps or different types of data that DPINs do care about, oftentimes based upon the project, can be verified, as well as you mentioned, even the GPU capacity or the authenticity of the GPUs. So network spoofing can be reduced or eliminated, and we're working with some projects on that as well through ZKP.
Amazing, amazing. Yeah, a lot to look forward to. I think, ZK has kind of, was really, really hot in the earlier parts of this year. And then maybe people went back to really build out all the things that seem to have like investor market fit. And now these products are starting to come out that really exemplify what the excitement earlier in the year was. So I think 2025 is going to be a huge year of zero knowledge proof adoption. What are your thoughts on the next year for Novanet and for ZK in general?
Yeah, definitely the same. We think 2025 is going to be really exciting for ZKPs, for Novanet especially, because we're going to launch, really the version 1 of our ZK VM, hyper efficient, let's say, that can run on the edge devices. We're going to have our public testnet also be launching. Right now, we're in private testnet, and so I think that the future of ZK is very bright, as well as DPIN and where they intersect with IoTeX. So we're very excited and very busy, and ready to hit the ground running in January.
Amazing, amazing. Well, thank you so much for coming on and sharing a little bit about our POC and this intersection of ZK and DPIN. We have a lot of more edge devices from our DApps and from our partners to send your way. So I think 2025 will be a really exciting year for both of our projects, and looking forward to collaborating. So thanks for coming on. We'll talk again soon.
Thanks for having me.
Awesome. Yeah, hopefully the presentations today and like the guest presenters show a little bit about what is going on with IoTeX, right? It's not just improving the foundational layer, the tech stack, but it's also fitting these technologies in to projects like GeoNet and ZK builders, infrastructure builders like Novanet. It's really coming together, I would say. So for those that joined a little late, hopefully you guys will watch it back. But just to recap, during our town hall today, we really covered a lot of things. We started to talk about some of the exchange listings, some of the network metrics that are growing day by day with IoTeX. But the focus of today was really to talk about the technology update, right? We shared a little bit about Mainnet version 2.1. It comes with several really high profile Ethereum improvement proposals, EIPs, including EIP 1559 and 4844 for dynamic gas fee transactions and shard blob transactions, which are going to improve the fee mechanisms on the layer 1, as well as the on-chain storage and performance on the layer 1. We talked a little bit about what's going on with ioID, which was launched last month, and WebStream, and some of the projects that are adopting ioID and WebStream, native projects like IoTeX, including WatchX, Network 3, Nubula, and EnviroBlock, and also projects on other blockchains, such as GeoNet, which we had on. We talked about some new DIMs. We're welcoming the Graph as a data indexer module for IoTeX very shortly. And we also have welcomed Streamer and Novanet as really amazing partners for us on the infrastructure side of things. And just preparing for this next wave, really preparing our platform for this next wave of DePIN and AI, which we believe the prerequisite to enabling this intersection is truly having verifiable data, verifiable resources, and verifiable services from verifiable devices to feed AI, right? We can't feed the AI overlords junk. It has to be verifiable and trustworthy for this really to make sense. So that's kind of like the direction that we're really heading in, and hope you guys see the bigger picture as we've explained during our live stream today. We also had Aaron and I and Claire from the IoTeX team were in Washington, D.C. To talk with regulators about crypto regulation in the United States at the Blockchain Association's Policy Summit. Really amazing insights, and I couldn't be more bullish for the future of crypto and DePIN with this amazing tailwind from sensible crypto regulation and the freedom to explore new areas without the risk of being sued. Not saying that it's the wild, wild west and we can do whatever we want, but working closely with regulators to develop sensible regulations is something that we've all been daydreaming about, and that day is finally here. So IoTeX is really looking forward to being part of these conversations, working closely with regulators and the Blockchain Association, and joining the DePIN working group to start the process for what sensible regulation of DePIN and crypto in the US really looks like. So shout out to the Blockchain Association for the warm welcome, and we have a lot more news coming. So, and with that, I think that's going to end our stream. We've been doing this for about an hour now. It might be our last stream of 2024. So want to wish everyone some happy holidays, and 2025 is going to be a really big year for IoTeX. So we look forward to it. I think the last thing that I'll drop, a small hint, you saw it on our Twitter yesterday, but just we'll leave a little mysterious tidbit for everyone. Bino Matrix AI is coming soon. So awesome. We'll see you guys soon. Happy holidays, and stay tuned for more announcements before the end of the year. But we'll be back live streaming in 2025. All right. See you guys later.